Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you are doing well. It is debrief time. What a weekend of Premier League football, and if you want to chase that rank, make sure you smash a huge thumbs up on this video and make sure that you subscribe, because we're going to be here all season long for us all to help us chase our rank. So big video today, so I'm not going to dilly-dally too much on it. We're going to go straight into this Chelsea and Fulham game from Saturday night my time, but the early kickoff for you guys over in the UK. And today the purpose is just looking at our plots here from between the posts. So if you do want to get access to these, it's pretty cheap. If you just want the Premier League access, I think it's worth it. It just helps put the picture together of what's going on the field, maybe that you can't see fully if you're watching the games on TV. So sorry if you see me kind of like looking in behind the camera and whatnot as well, because I do have my graphics are behind the camera, so I can't like duplicate the screen. So it's a little bit annoying that I can't have it in front of me and with you guys. So this game here, Chelsea obviously go on to win quite comfortably, but that doesn't tell the full picture of the game. Fulham had opportunities in this game as well. Josh King, you can see how high he's getting for Fulham on this plot too. He, at 4.5 million, could be that sort of wild card enabler, that if you need a playing 4.5 player, he could be the option. Has the goal ruled out via a foul in the build-up. Now, Liam Delap, so, you know, the only thing I'd struggle with these plots is when there's an early injury in the game, it doesn't account for what happens like after the injury, like who comes on. So because obviously George comes into the game and he's not shown on the plot, and he played a significant part in the game as well. He did play quite a bit of the match. So I don't think we learnt heaps of new information out of this Chelsea-Fulham game. We learnt that Enzo Fernandez is going to be on penalties whilst Cole Palmer's not on the pitch. I said that on the live stream on Tuesday, and if you haven't joined our live streams, make sure Tuesday night at 8 p.m. ACST, you're on the channel and you get those notifications on so you can engage with us live. I said that Fernandez would likely be on penalties, and the two Chelsea fans on the podcast said, nah, João Pedro will take them, and then it was Enzo Fernandez. So there's one thing I got right this week. So, you know, looking from a team structure, you know, perspective, you can see Chelsea really in that, you know, back four there with Cucurella, Tosin, Chalobah, Gusto, and Caicedo screening, with then Fernandez really playing up as an 8 as well. So, you know, you've got Fernandez, João Pedro, Estevao, and then you'd have George with Neto as well. But I just think, you know, we've got some confirmation there around what Chelsea are going to do without Cole Palmer. If he's not in the team, you know, after the international break, then we'll probably see something similar to this. Marc Cucurella, once again, you know, gets the clean sheet. He's probably the pick of the 6 million defenders. I think him and Virgil, probably the two you'd want if you're going anywhere in that price bracket. But again, I don't think this individual game has changed much of what we expected from Chelsea. Tosin at 4.5. Transfer window closes today. It'd be interesting to see what goes on there. He has been a good pick from the start of the season. I was tempted by it, and I probably should have just gone there at 4.5 and taken the risk, but I was a bit scarred with the Jarrell Quansah from last season. Take the 4 million defender, a 4.5 million defender from a good team, and it doesn't pay out. So look, again, Moises Caicedo breaks, you know, so much DC, you know, record. They had 23 DC, and I think you go from there. João Pedro took his header very well. Probably could have scored again late in the game as well. We're trying to round the goalkeeper, but again, I don't think we need to talk too much about this game. Then we're moving into Sunderland and Brentford, and I don't want to talk too much about positionally, because I don't think there's a heap of players that are super relevant. Like Dango on the right wing at 6 million could be an option, but I just don't think Brentford are going to score enough goals to really be worthy of being in our sides. I think Sunderland at home are going to be hard to beat. We've seen them win their 2 opening games at home. Granit Xhaka is doing everything in the middle, but like someone like a Ronaldo could be an option. Hume at right back, like their fullbacks are pushing on heaps. But again, I don't think there's heaps to talk about from this game. You know, Damsgaard is another option, you know, that we've got, but I think he's a little bit expensive for what he offers, and I just don't think we want to touch Brentford assets. So sorry to any Sunderland or Brentford fans, we're not going to talk about that one too much. The one I want to talk about is Tottenham and Bournemouth. Now, I really didn't see this result coming the way that it did. If you told me before the game that Bournemouth were going to win, I wouldn't think it's, you know, too out of the ordinary, but the fact that Bournemouth dominated the game and absolutely killed the stats as well was incredible. I was very impressed on what they were able to produce. Semenyo was one of my transfers in this week. We will talk about the other transfer in a minute as well, because that did not help. And I'm just going to quickly turn my light on because I realise I don't have my light on. Semenyo missed a couple golden chances as well, which, if he converts one of them, then I'm sitting here thinking my game week was, super, super good. It was still fine. I got a green arrow, but it is what it is. Marcos Senesi was someone we were talking about in pre-season at 4.5 million with very, very good DC potential, but he also got the assist for the goal for Evan Nilsson, which, you can see by all the arrows going in and out of Senesi's icon, they want the ball with him in build-up. So he's someone who I'm very, very, heavily looking at in my game week 7 wildcard. You can see the Spurs shape was a little bit different. So Jed Spence clearly was inverting. I wouldn't say he's clearly inverting. Partly the position map's there because Pedro Porro comes off and he then moves to right back when Udogie comes on. So again, it doesn't give you a true reflection. So you can't just fully look at these plots and not watch the game to know what's going on, because that, significantly impacts his plot. So the other pieces around it, though, are pretty how they were. So obviously when Spence moved across, Udogie comes on. We don't see where Udogie's positioning was. So that is what it is. David Brooks at 5.5 million looks an option, but you'd have to be content with him not being on the pitch all the time. Kudus, you can see how involved he is in their playmaking versus their goals. And then Brennan Johnson comes off pretty early. And I was definitely deflecting people away from Brennan Johnson on the TikTok comments, because I had a lot of people saying, why is he an avoid? That's the reason why he's an avoid. He's an avoid because he's definitely not locked in minutes and the transfer window is still open. Now, this game here, Everton Wolves. Really, really keen to talk about this one. Everton, yes, they concede 2 goals. This was the reason why I didn't go with Tarkowski early days. Now, it's bitten me in the butt because I went with Murillo. So I would have much rather Tarkowski. I just thought in pre-season that they need Branthwaite in order to keep clean sheets. Everton have only kept the 1 clean sheet, I believe. Maybe 2. No, 1. They've only kept the 1 against Brighton. Tarkowski does look a fantastic option, and when they've got their full defence up and firing, I think he's going to be a great buy at 5.5, over a Murillo, who right now, we'll talk about Forest a little bit later. But Jack Grealish, 4 assists, 2 games, and just looks incredible. Some of these, like the headed assist was brilliant. Again, gets the other assist, a little dink ball over to Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall at 5 million, playing in the 10 for this team and getting 90 minutes. I don't think the dibbling move really impacts him. I think it's probably more on Ndiaye, who could come off, because all the other substitutions are happening around Dewsbury Hall. They've got plenty of wingers and they've got Barry up front. And I think, as an enabler at 5 million, he could be massive on our wild cards now, albeit whether that's 7 or 13. I think if he's your 5th midfielder, I think you just play him in the good fixtures and you bench him in the hard ones. Set pieces, he's further, you look how high up the pitch Dewsbury Hall is. I just think he's a great option at 5 mil. I also think Jack Grealish at 6.5 is a great option. And if that move had been done through pre-season, there's a world where I would have started with him as well. But I think he's someone to keep an eye on. Wolves, I just would not go near Wolves at the moment. Strand Larson not in the team. My boy Hwang gets a goal, but I'm worried for Wolves. I think they're going to be battling relegation this year. I would avoid. They're just rotating a lot. They're trying to find the mix of what their best 11 is. So they are just huge avoids, including Agbadou for me, because I just don't think they're going to keep enough clean sheets. Now, I made a last-minute decision on Saturday night to take the captain off Bruno. And this is where, 90-minute men, we've been speaking about it all the time. I've learnt my lesson. I went to Chris Wood with my captaincy and it cost me 8 points overall, which if I had it on Bruno, I would have been a very happy man this week because it would have put me into the mid-60s and I would have been laughing. But anyway, it is what it is. Bruno gets further forward due to circumstance more than opportunity, I think. With Cunha and Mount both getting injured, that just forced the hand to play Bruno further forward. I've been talking about it forever. The reason I took the captaincy off of Bruno wasn't about goals. It was just about him being deeper. And I thought, the only way he's going to get a goal is through a penalty, and that's exactly what happened. 90-odd minute, gets the penalty, converts it, and it's fine. I get a 10-pointer in my team, and it is what it is. Again, we're talking about Ruben Amorim and the system. Burnley, you really didn't create a whole lot anyway. They took their goals nicely. I'll give them that. But what we saw was Bruno was involved in everything. I woke up Sunday morning, watched the highlights, like the 10-minute recap, and Bruno was just brilliant. He is everywhere. He's just not going out of my team. He just has so many routes to points. I think now with the injuries, there's an international break, so Cunha's probably going to be right after, but surely Ruben Amorim can see that Bruno Fernandes needs to be further forward. And I think I'm not expecting a huge shape change from Manchester United, but you just got to get him more involved further forward because he's just so good. His delivery is incredible. His eye for a pass is incredible. He can shoot. He needs to be further up the pitch. Again, the fullbacks is a really interesting situation. It looks like it's one of Ahmad or Dorgu, and then Dallo plays on the other side. So I don't really know what Amran's going to do there, but he's pretty set on this back three. And if Delit's going to sit in the centre of the three, he's not a bad option if United get a good fixture run going. So again, I'm not looking at targeting any Man United assets with their fixtures now, but if you've got Bruno, I would not be selling. Then we go to the one game that I actually haven't seen pretty much anything of this week. 0-0. Kieran Trippier really involved down on that right-hand side, but you can see by Newcastle, they've just got players all through the middle. Again, they had a few injuries. No Isak. Looks like he's off to Liverpool as well. So, look, Newcastle, no Gordon. I just think they're a team right now that I just wouldn't go near. Regardless of fixtures, I just would not go there. I think what we've seen with Leeds, once again, Anton Stack, I love the positions he gets into. And at some point this year, I mean, if you're comparing Stack and Dewsbury Hall, you're going Dewsbury Hall at 5 million and you're not going to have both. But I think this midfield three of Stack, Gruev and Longstaff could actually be really good for Leeds as well. And then there was obviously no Tanaka. So if you have Tanaka, Longstaff and Stack, that's a good base to work off of. And Lucas Nemeka is not a bad striker. Nonto's a good winger. And then you've got Daniel James, Prem Proven, Goodmanson and Bogle. So I just think Leeds, I don't think Leeds are going to be as bad as everybody thinks. And I think the three promoted sides are really going to rustle some feathers. I think Burnley's probably going to struggle the most out of the three. But I think, Leeds and Sunderland have probably shown enough to show that they're going to be competitive. Newcastle, as I said already, I just don't see a world where Newcastle really are going to get the ground going unless they go and make a few signings. Now, this game here, I'm very, very annoyed. I pivoted to Chris Wood. It didn't bother me about the transfer. It was more about the captaincy. And I just thought, Bruno, Burnley, low block, Bruno, defensive midfield. Is he going to get enough returns? End of the day, he gets one return in DC and he gets 10 points. And I should have just backed the floor there. I took the ceiling play of Chris Wood. I thought he'll get at least 80 minutes, which didn't happen. He misses a header that, wasn't an easy chance. But again, if Chris Wood puts that header in and they're 1-0 up, it then invites West Ham. West Ham just said, break us down. And Forest couldn't. And it's funny because in pre-season, we saw Forest not being able to score, but we saw them being able to defend. So far through 3 games, yes, they didn't score today, but they scored 3 against Brentford, and then they drew 1-1 with Crystal Palace. Murillo, once again, just nowhere near DC. And again, this wasn't a fixture for DC. And the 3 goals from West Ham come from the 82nd minute onwards. I had Diouf on my bench for an assist and a clean sheet, and I'm just sitting there with a 10-pointer on my bench, and Chris Wood is my captain, and I'm just frustrated watching at the moment. And it's just one game, and look, end of the day, I know that I'm wildcarding in game week 7. I brought in Chris Wood for this 4-game stretch. He sits on my bench against Arsenal, and then I get the 2 games, Sunderland, and I think it's Burnley before the wild card. So Forest, I don't know what's going to go on with Nuno. There's all this talk about new manager and him getting sacked. I don't see it happening. Elliot Anderson heavily involved once again. Gibbs White. There's got to be a point where Forest just get it right because the players are there. Yes, they don't have Elanga anymore, but they've just flipped the switch. They've gone to the left wing instead of the right wing. I think Forest will get there. They'll be okay. They need the international break. They need to reset. They'll get their mojo back. They'll play Arsenal. Again, I do have Murillo on the bench, but I've got Porro versing Diouf. I'm probably going to back the attacking return at this point because Murillo's just not shown a ceiling of DC. But is the Arsenal game one where they're going to sit back and go back to their old principles? Maybe. So we'll see what happens there. West Ham needed this result massively. We were massive on West Ham in pre-season. They actually looked okay through their pre-season games, and this is a bit more what we saw. I think the 4-2-3-1 actually fits their structure quite well with Ward-Prowse, Paqueta, Souček. New Matheus Fernandes looked all right. Bowen gets to be a bit more of an outlet, and Diouf down that left-hand side swinging balls in. Maybe we don't have to panic on West Ham so much, but we'll see what they do because they've got some tougher fixtures. Now, Man City. I went hard against Man City, and Erling Haaland could have had this 3-0 at halftime and game set match completely. Misses an easy one-on-one for his standards. I don't know what he did, scuffed it. Misses a header that is only inches away from going over the line and then gets his goal. And then you're thinking, all right, well, here come the Man City train. I went to bed at halftime, woke up, saw 2-1 and thought, what the hell happened? Someone who really caught my eye from what I've seen, Yakuba Minte. The big questions on him were minutes. Jorginho Ruda was back on the bench, but surely Minte and Matoma are the 2 wingers for Brighton. I think, they should just be set and forget. And then really it should be Welbeck, the Greek fellas, and then Ruta fighting for that striker and that 10 role. There was no O'Reilly, so Gomez came in, and you can see he's kind of playing that 10 role. But Hinsel was really deep. He was picking the ball up. You can see where he is, picking the ball up off the defence and really covering for De Kuyper. So then you've got Baleba and Gomez almost as a 2 instead of having a 10. Brighton, again, you're not buying anyone from Brighton, but Minte is someone who I'd definitely be watching. Man City, same thing. Just ride out these fixtures. If you've got Reinders, it's fine. If you've got Marmoush, he looks like he's going to start, because as long as Ait-Nouri's playing at left back, he's going to occupy that wide space. You're not going to play Ait-Nouri and Doku on the same side. So it wouldn't surprise me if Pep does go with this system, with Nunez inverting, with Bob on one side, and then Marmoush cutting inside. So I think this is probably the structure Pep's going to go with. But again, I'm probably not buying anyone until game week 7. Now, Liverpool and Arsenal. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about from this game. I don't think we learned anything new about anyone really. Szoboszlai still in that right back role, hits the free kick, fantastic. Wirtz had some moments again. I think he'll be fine. Wirtz just needs time and minutes. And, this is the same Liverpool side that we've seen. They're 3 from 3. Mo Salah gets his first blank of the season. Again, it's fine. It's the hardest fixture he was going to have in this opening stretch as well. Arsenal, again, same sort of structure. We knew they were going to go a bit more workman in the midfield. Martinelli starts over Eze. We'll see Eze integrated through the international break. Saliba gets injured, which doesn't help things for Arsenal, I guess, in this sense. But, 1-0. If this game finished 0-0, it's kind of expected that, nothing really crazy. The big talking point now is that Fabrizio Romano has tweeted out that it's here we go, Isak to Liverpool. The one thing I'd probably talk about is what happens if Gueye comes in for Kanate. Again, I don't think it changes heaps for Liverpool. I think we're going to play, Gravenberch, McAllister, Wirtz. Bradley was fit, but he opted for Szoboszlai. It doesn't actually surprise me that he's gone one inverting fullback and then one overlapping fullback. So I don't think structurally that's going to change anytime soon. I don't see Frimpong being that kind to invert either. And I'm intrigued to see what happens when everybody's fit. But for now, this is the structure. Ekitike has a goal ruled out as well. I'm just intrigued to see what happens now. This is the reason why I didn't buy into Liverpool this week, or with the intention of buying into Burnley in a fortnight, because I want to see what it looks like with Isak first. So I'm intrigued to see what happens. Arsenal, again, if you've got Arsenal assets, don't panic. It is what it is. And the last game of the week. Now, Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. Now, I've got Chris Richards and I've got Sarr, and they completely saved my week. But I also have Ollie Watkins. And, everyone's talking about, time to sell Watkins. I'm at a point now where my structure is my structure. I'm wildcarding in 7. And if I want to get rid of Ollie Watkins before Burnley, that just becomes Victor Gyökeres on my wildcard. That's how I'm looking at it. If Watkins can pull his finger out and get a return over the next 3 or 4 weeks, then I'll be laughing, or the next 3 weeks, I'll be laughing. So that's it from Villa. I just would not be buying anyone from Villa. You can see, though, Crystal Palace came with a plan. They came, if we get 0-0, that's, break even. Anything better is a massive result. You can see how low that block is. Look where Mateta is in comparison to Chris Richards and Lacroix and Gueye. They went and got their goal and then, got the penalty. And then it was just, we're sitting in and we're just going to try and defend this. So I, as a Sarr owner, was grateful that he popped up for the 3rd goal, because I needed those points and he was very lowly owned around me. So I'm very happy for that. And Chris Richards gets his defensive contributions. This was alongside the Chelsea game and probably the Forest. I thought Richards would have had a little bit more opportunities for defensive contributions throughout. My concern is if this Gueye deal to Liverpool gets done, then what's going to happen to Palace defensively? He scores a wonder goal today as well, which he's not known for. I am concerned, though, that they maybe don't have the depth at centre-back. So maybe Palace don't do the deal and maybe, they beg Gueye to stay one more year. Who knows? So we'll see what happens there. If Gueye stays, it just makes that defence, great option. If you've got Daniel Munoz, I think he's returned every single game. You got the clean sheet against Chelsea, you got the assist against Forest, and then he gets a clean sheet again today. I think, Munoz and Tarkowski probably the 5.5s to consider. The Forest boys haven't done it. But that is sort of the main big talking points that I've found through this week. We're not going to go through my team because I'll do that on the stream tomorrow. So if you have enjoyed the video, make sure you smash a huge thumbs up on the video. I really do appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe. We're pushing up towards 100 subs. If we can get to 100 by the end of the international break, that would be great as well. We appreciate your support. So make sure you're hanging around and helping us to help you guys chase your rank.